So, what did I do over the weekend? Well, I went back out to the cinema yet again, and I went to go see one of my most anticipated movies of the year. That's right, of course I'm talking about Barbie by Greta Gerwig. No. Okay, well, I did see Barbie, actually, and it was pretty good. I actually did like it. So, if you're looking to see Barbie, check it out. It's a pretty fun little movie. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the Christopher Nolan 3-hour epic Oppenheimer. This legit has been my most anticipated movie this year. If you've known me personally, you know I could not shut up about this movie. I could not stop talking about it. It has been a very long time since I've actually have been excited for a movie like I have for this one. And of course, when it comes to his movies, I'm also very excited too because he films everything with Imax cameras. And I'm a defender of the Imax format when done right, because nothing can ever really truly compare to seeing a movie in the full Imax 70mm format. When it's just blown up on the big screen, you just can see the film on there. Nothing can compare to it. So the second the tickets went on sale for this movie, I bought them day one. I'm talking 7 in the morning, I woke up, I rushed to my computer, I bought my ticket for this movie day one. And I'm talking IMAX 70mm presentation. I made sure I got the best seat I could get and that I was guaranteed I could see the movie in this format, because this movie, there's so few theaters showing it in this. Like in the US, there's only 19 screens, and across the entire world, it's 30 combined. So if you're able to see it in this format, it's pretty rare because there's so few screens that can even show this movie in its original form. So with that, even then, I was just on extra edge excitement for this movie. It's 9:03. It's Oppenheimer Day. It's time. I've been waiting a long time for this. All right, let's get ready. My showing's gonna start soon. Oh shoot. So getting down to the theater, I got in my seat and I'm just like, oh, I'm so happy I did this, because the seat I had was so perfect. It was like right in the middle. All I could see was screen, and the second the expanded aspect ratio scenes hit, I was in heaven. But it's time. I've stopped gushing. I got my intro out the way. I'm going to start talking about it. What did I think of the movie as a whole? It was incredible. It was a brilliant movie. And it might be one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies. Obviously, there's still the thing of it's very fresh in my mind, and I haven't had time to really settle. I've only seen it once. I'm actually going to another screening of it in a few days. But from just my first impressions of it, it really left me blown away after watching it. And obviously, there's the joke of, you see Oppenheimer, then you see Barbie, and like the whole time through Barbie, you're thinking about the movie, and it's like that actually was right. Like there's a joke about Homelander in the theater where he's just kind of sitting there puzzled. That was me during a point in Barbie, because I was thinking about Oppenheimer. I was like, man, that moment was crazy. Like, oh god, that moment was good too. Or no, that piece of dialogue was, and that was me the whole time during Barbie. I was still able to enjoy it, but I kept thinking about this movie, and even early this morning, I was thinking about it some more. It's such a well-made movie. And from a filmmaking perspective, it's so consistent in every regard. From the story, the writing, the acting, the cinematography, the editing, the sound design, the soundtrack, everything just culminates into just a perfect harmony. And I'm going to dive into all of these things like right now. I'm not leaving a single stone untouched with this one. Starting off, the writing. The writing was great in this movie. It was really well written. Great dialogue, great lines, acting. Oh, where do I even begin with this one? Where do I begin? Right off the bat, Cillian Murphy, that was an Oscar award-winning performance right there. That was a brilliant performance. There's so much depth that he brought to this role. He did such an amazing job with it, and just some of the ways he would deliver lines, but more than that, the way he emotes in this movie with his face and just telling you everything you need to know about what's happening in the scene, what his character is internally going through and externally seeing it. It's a point perfect performance, and the script being as good as it is really helps accelerate that. And the supporting cast as well. So good. This is such a crazy ensemble cast that even throughout the movie, there's parts watching where I was like, oh shoot, I forgot they were in this movie. Like I forgot. There's so many huge actors or actors where you're like, oh shoot, I haven't seen them in something in a hot minute. And they were in this. And it happened so much to the movie. It's like, man, this cast is crazy. And there's not a single person in the cast, like in the main or supporting, where I could even say, that was a weak performance or they could have done better. Like, no, everyone gave their A game on this one. Like, there was not a single performance where I left the movie thinking, that was okay. Like, the big players did their thing, and the small players also did their thing as well. So, the main casting, whoever was the casting director on this one, like, hey, give them an Oscar too, because they killed it. And to move on to more of the technical aspects, the cinematography was outstanding. It was great. As usual, his DP, Hoyt van Hoytema, like, great. He's been working on a lot of Nolan projects, and obviously the cinematography was great. It was a really well-shot movie. So many close-ups, so many personal shots. Everything shot really well. But obviously, I'm a big fan of the DP, and they worked together with Nolan in a lot of different projects, so they really had that link in there too. So DP, cinematography, excellent. Editing. The pacing on this movie was really good. This is a 3-hour movie. It's a biopic drama with a lot of talking, a lot of dialogue, a lot of people in boardrooms talking, and the pacing flies by. It's very quick paced, but it never feels like, man, it's going too fast. It's a really good pace, and the 3 hours really glides by. And there are so many brilliant editing choices throughout this movie. I'm talking brilliant. Coming from someone who does a lot of editing and watches a lot of film editing and really dissects it, there's so many brilliant choices they made in editing on this movie that I'm still thinking about, and I can't wait to experience again when I see the movie a second time. Like, just the way they use sound, the way they play with the visuals, it's so good. And there's so many small details that are in the edit that make these big moments pop so much more. Oh, brilliantly edited movie. I can't say nothing but like high regards on it. So in terms of the editing of this movie, perfect. I have no qualms with it whatsoever. Perfectly paced, a lot of great moments. I loved it. Now the sound design, great in this movie. It's fantastic and really makes some moments hit so much harder, adds so much tension to moments. And he wasn't joking. He said in an interview that you're gonna feel the sound in this movie, and he is not lying. There is a part in this movie where the bass and the sound was so loud, it hit my stomach and my stomach recoiled in the seat. So the sound design, excellent. It's really good. The sound mixing, I'll say it's better than it was in Tenet, because in Tenet, I really did struggle to hear dialogue. There were a few scenes, I will say, where I kind of couldn't hear dialogue, like the music was a little too loud. Now, this could be theater specific though. I will say, I'll hold it to this. It could be a theater specific issue, because I've heard some people talk about the movie and say they could understand all the dialogue fine. So it could be a theater dependent problem, as each theater is going to have different mixing on their end, separate from the movie master itself. So I'm factoring in, at least for right now, that it could be the theater. And when I see it at home, when I see it again in other formats, maybe it'll change. But for a few scenes, I did notice that the dialogue was a little muffled. I really had to pay attention a bit more to hear it. And of course, the soundtrack. Ludwig Göransson is one of my favorite composers. To me, I consider him one of the new golden age composers, and one who I put almost on John Williams territory. He's done so many different types of soundtracks, and along with working with artists like with Childish Gambino, every score I've heard from him, I've left listening to for weeks after the movies come out. I still listen to the Creed soundtrack to this day. It still pops up very regularly, and I still listen to it. And his soundtrack for this movie was outstanding. The second I left the theater, the first thing I did was put the soundtrack on in my car. So here's me driving on the road with the opening track of the movie just going. I'm just like, yeah, here we go. Little goofy, probably looking outside. It's like, what's that guy listening to? What a weirdo. But the score for this movie was great. It fit the tone of every scene it needed to be. It was intense. It was scary at times. It was all perfect. And last but not least, I need to talk about the Imax 70mm presentation. I had to save the best for last. How was it in Imax 70mm? It was incredible. I love that format, and it's just great to see film projection. I don't get a chance to see film projection much these days, as everything now is more digital, and there just is an inherent difference. Like seeing a film projected, seeing the flicker of the light, seeing film grain, seeing little specks get on the frame every once in a while, it's what makes the experience so cool. And the movie looks great. Anytime the black and white scenes came on in IMAX, it looks so good. The contrast, the shadows, the way they look in that format are so good. Like, I want to see it in other formats to see how it stacks up. But it's going to be tough because I've seen it in what is considered the best format to watch the movie in. But honestly, if you're able to see the movie in any format, I think it'll still hold up because the sound design is still great. It's going to still work really good. And sound is what really pushes this movie into a lot of like the high intense moments, and it's the sound. And I think the story itself and the acting is still going to be fantastic without seeing it in big formats. If you can see it on a big screen, even if it's not a true IMAX or anything like that, or you can see it in 70mm or anything, go out and see it. I gave the movie on my Letterboxd a 5 out of 5. And from my early initial reviews, it's pretty close to a 10 in my book. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to give this movie a 10. I think this movie is definitely deserved of a 10. In terms of my initial first viewing of it, how I've been processing the movie after the fact, and just how excited I am for a second viewing. Like, the fact that it's summer, like, you think a big blockbuster in summer, and the movie I'm most excited about and I can't stop thinking about is a 3-hour biopic about the Manhattan Project. But here we are, and I love it for that. So yeah, that's gonna be it. I'm not gonna talk about all the stuff in the movie, like all the scenes. I'd rather say, you know what, go see it yourself. There's a lot of things I think will work better for a viewing experience if you just go in not knowing anything. So I'm not gonna talk about any of the big scenes. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me here. Thanks for watching. As always, I'm John, GWC, and I love movies. I really fucking love movies. See you later.
4, 3,
Truman needs to know what's next.
2,
What's next?
1.